Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business psychology and marketing and how you can use that in your business daily and long term. Today, I'm talking with Clare Josa, who has spent the past 17 years specializing in helping leaders and passionate world changers to clear out the glass ceilings they never realized they had put in their way, especially imposter syndrome. So they no longer have to secretly self-sabotage and they can make a difference that they are really here to make in the world. Clare, welcome to the show, and let me know if I missed anything.
Hi, Tad. Thank you so much for inviting me. No, that's a good summary. And for your viewers and your listeners, my original background was actually in mechanical engineering. So I've got a master's degree in that in German. I spent 10 years specializing in Six Sigma and diesel engine manufacture before I became head of market research for one of the world's most disruptive brands, and realized that really what fired me up was how people tick and how to help them to feel happier. And that is what in 2003 made me take the leap. I was an NLP trainer. I'd studied bits of psychology, practical psychology, neuroscience. That is what made me leap into what I'm doing now. And probably the first 20 clients I worked with at senior levels were all running imposter syndrome, which is what set me off on this mission.
All right. Okay. Well, that is a great lead in to my first question, because I always like to start with this because it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the show. Is if you could go back in time and you could pick out one business or life decision that you could change, and you could actually change it. First off, would you change it? And then if you would change it, what would you change it to?
So it's a really tough question, because in some ways, once we've been through that life decision, we realize actually it played a vital part in us becoming who we are now, so we can do the work that we're doing now. So there were lots of things at the time I thought, oh my goodness, that was totally the wrong decision. But actually, with hindsight, it was the perfect choice. But maybe sometimes what I would change is the way I implemented it. So if I take the decision about when I was first running my business in 2003, I was a real early adopter on the internet. I was running online courses before they were even a thing. And I look back and I realized I was asking the wrong people for advice. I was going to people like the local chamber of commerce and government agencies for business advice. And what they were trying to do was shoehorn me into the traditional model of you go and find a client, you invoice them, you work with them, you wrap up and it's done. And actually, I was so passionate about reinventing the way we were working together, being able to reach people across the world, that they didn't have that experience and advice. And if I could, that is probably one of the few things I would change. I would go back and get myself a mentor who had been there and done it and got the stripes in exactly the strategies I needed. So not necessarily my field, but those strategies. You could say, Claire, this, then this, then this, then I wouldn't have needed to invent that wheel myself. And it would have taken about 10 years off the journey.
Understand that for sure. So think again, go back in time and look at one decision, business or life, that worked out super positive. I mean, just super. So you could look back and you could think, oh, I see everything before this decision and after this decision. It's kind of a dividing line. Do you have one of those?
I do. So this one's one of those that's like got great big neon signs pointing right at that moment. Yeah. So, as entrepreneurs, we love change and we love difference and we love variety and we love to be able to pivot and to implement quickly. We're very agile. The corporate world's catching up with agile, but we've been living and breathing it for a long time.
Right.
And that's actually one of our biggest positives. It's also one of our biggest downsides, because our audience doesn't like change. They like to know, Tad does this, Claire does this. So about 4 years ago, when I started, 4 years ago now, when I started writing my latest book, Ditching Imposter Syndrome, on the shelf behind me, I made a decision, I am going to give 2 solid years to one topic, because the work I do, because it gets down there at that root cause level of what's driving the behavior that makes us self-sabotage, you can apply it to so many different things. That classic shiny object syndrome. So I said, 2 solid years, I will do nothing but talk about imposter syndrome. It was hard because I wanted to chase the shiny objects. It has so paid off. I now get really decent paying speaker gigs from Google searches. Yeah, from people
Wow.
who've never seen me before, because of my reputation, because I focused on that one thing and I got the book out there that actually really works and makes a difference. So that's created the word of mouth. I don't do advertising. I don't do cold calls. The work I do comes from word of mouth and from cold Google searches. And that is that one decision to say, do you know what? I love variety. From the point of view of social media, I'm just going to focus on this one thing and really help people at that deeper level to realize that you can do something about imposter syndrome. You don't have to put up with it and cope with it.
That is awesome. So this kind of relates to that. Go back in time, and what one decision do you think was the scariest?
Quitting my day job.
I get that a lot. I get that one a lot, actually.
So I'd done my NLP master practitioner. I wanted to do my NLP trainer's training because that really takes your skills to the next level on being able to help people, because obviously you can then train people up to master practitioner level. And it was a month-long intensive course, like a boot camp. And it really was boot camp for the soul. And my employer wasn't very happy about letting me take the time off, even unpaid. And I had such a drive to do it and to do it then that I basically went, well, I'm going to do it. And I blew a big raspberry and I left the business, and I had a business plan that I'd worked with my bank on, and the bank knew nothing about how I was going to work. So that never quite paid off. But in that moment where I said, you know what, I'm at a life crossroads. I can either carry on doing what I'm doing in somebody else's business, or I can take that leap and get to make an even bigger difference. That is one of the scariest things I've ever done, because I'd only been at the company for about 2 weeks short of 3 years. They made me repay all of my bonuses and relocation allowances. I worked my last 6 weeks unpaid to pay all of that back. They really made it hard to leave. But that also felt, on the other hand, if I'm going to go a bit woo about it, it felt like the universe saying, Claire, I need you to prove you really mean this. Yeah. And I really, really meant it. That course is the best thing I've ever done, because it really helped me to clear out some of my deep stuff at that point. It set me up to be able to handle some really challenging life events that came at me over the next few years. But in that moment, leaping into the unknown, I didn't know anybody else running a business. There weren't all these online forums for people to help each other. I was the weirdo in my circle of friends, and I didn't actually know how I was going to make it work. But I knew if I made the other choice, I would always regret it.
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of relates to that, because I mean, as entrepreneurs, and I say this a lot, I mean, part of what we do is making decisions, and we don't have a lot of background always, especially back then when there wasn't a lot of, or there weren't hardly any guides to follow. Those are some big decisions. A lot of people, including us, can get stuck. You know, we don't know what to do, so we do nothing. Do you have a way or a method or a tip or some way that you get through those decisions and that you help other people get through those decisions that you'd share here?
Absolutely. So I always ask myself the mentoring question: what do I get to avoid by not making this decision? So what do I get to avoid by not making this decision? Because then I can find out, for example, is it burnout? Am I exhausted? Do I actually need to drop down a gear for a few weeks? Is it a secret fear? Yeah, I talk about the imposter syndrome gap as the gap between who we see ourselves as being and who we think we need to be. And we build the bridge of coping strategies over that gap. Is it just that the gap's opened up and I need to allow myself to become that version of me? Is it that my heart and soul are telling me this is the wrong way? Yeah, I will regret this. Is it simply fear? In which case, great, let's clear that fear out and take that action. So when you understand what do I get to avoid, it helps you understand what's called the secondary gain, the unmet need that is driving the procrastination behavior.
Got it.
That is driving that stuckness. When you clear that and then make the decision, you're doing it from a place of personal power rather than fear, anxiety, and worry. And it's usually a very different decision. And the energy that then goes through into those actions is really different, and your results are different.
Okay, I'm going to steal that. I love that. I haven't heard that one yet. I've done over 100 of these, and I have not heard that one yet. I love that.
It's an unlocker. It's an unlocker.
All right, super. And again, really thank you for that one. Getting close to the end here, but I want to ask this last question. I always save this one for last because for me anyway, it helps for other people to relate. Like, why should, why Claire? What is it about her? What has she seen? What has she done? And the way I ask it is kind of like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? That's kind of a cliche over here. But what is your passion? Why do you do this? Because it's my belief that after we do things for a while, the money isn't the driving factor. Even if it was to start, there's some reason that we get out of bed, get dressed, go down to our office, up to our office, out to our office, whatever, and do the things we do. There's a reason. And so I like to ask, what is it that you do? Because a lot of people, like you said earlier, you were the weirdo amongst your friends and your peers. They didn't understand what you were doing. And a lot of the listeners to this show, I believe, are in that same situation. So why do you do what you do?
Why do I do it? This incredible energy exchange between me and my students or my clients is I get to create and solve problems in a way that's fluff free. Okay. And in return, they get to use those solutions to make the tiny changes that totally transform the way they're living their lives. So it's this perfect balance. They are giving me the gift of being able to focus my creative problem solving. I am giving them the gift of being able to ask that random question or just do that tiny Jenga brick that means that habit that's held them back for 20 years just disappears in minutes, not months.
That is awesome. And I love the way you put that, the Jenga brick. I haven't heard that one either. That is a great analogy. So again, Claire, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate you being on the show. It's time to wrap it up. Is there anything that you'd like to leave the listeners and viewers that would benefit them?
Absolutely. So obviously, if you're running imposter syndrome, which the research study I ran 2 years ago found that 82% of us are as entrepreneurs, I would beg you, do not keep pushing on through and pretending, because that imposter syndrome gap, if it widens, the bridge of coping strategies falls down the ravine and you self-sabotage your business, and then you can't make a difference. So ditching imposter syndrome literally guides you step by step through the process I use with my mentoring clients. So go get that, change your life forever for less than the price of a pizza. And when you've got the book, there's a whole resource vault. And it's there and it's free, with extra videos and mini courses like my ABC training to be able to press pause on negative self-talk in under 60 seconds, which is kind of handy. You're about to do a client pitch. The critic's kicking off. When you've got the ABC, you can and flick back into cheerleader mode without pretending. So if you get the book, go and get those resources, make the most of them, and then come and find me over on LinkedIn to connect and let me know what your biggest light bulb is, because I want to know, what are you going to be doing differently once you have ditched imposter syndrome?
Awesome. I'm going to go get the book. That is awesome. Thank you again very, very much. Thanks everybody for listening. Really appreciate everybody being here. Have a safe and productive week and be the very, very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Until next time, this is Tad Stevens with Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.